I'm excited about this one today because it actually spoke to me a lot, and I feel very confident that it'll speak to you guys. So it says 10 things that cause stress, and it says, actually, I'm not sure if these cause stress in everyone, but I know these are the 10 most common things that cause stress in me. Number one, the belief that I am in control of my life rather than knowing that he is in control of everything, including my life. Number two, when I do not trust the people who I delegate authority and responsibility to and actually begin to believe the lie that if I want something done right, then I must do it myself. Number three, when I know without a doubt what God has told me to do, but I begin to listen to the experts who tell me that the very thing God has told me to do is impossible. Number four, when I try to explain myself to those who don't really want an explanation, they just want to argue. Number five, when I refuse to take some time to disconnect and rest, claiming that the devil never takes a day off while not understanding that the devil isn't supposed to be my example. Number six, when I begin to take on the Messiah complex and begin to think about how much I need to do and how much Jesus needs me rather than how much I actually need him. Number seven, when I worry about the results more than obedience. Number eight, when I focus on the size of the problem rather than the size of God. And number nine, when I fail to share my worries and concerns and admit my mistakes to others for fear that it may make me seem weak and stupid. The opposite is actually the case. Those around me actually love and respect me more when I ask for help, which I do respect people more when they ask questions than when they ask for help. And then number 10, when I become unaware of his presence every single minute of my life. Please remember and be encouraged that his plans are greater than any plans we could have for ourselves. Don't worry, God's got this. And I think a lot of these, and even if it's like just one that you can relate to, I feel like there's all of these things you can't sit here and be like, oh, I don't relate to any of those. I feel like most of us relate to either some of them, at least one of them. And so you can kind of decide on which one's for you and which one talks about you. But I know for me personally, I can actually say all of those things. I can relate to all of those things. And I always find myself in discouragement in the times when I'm doing all of these things, when I'm not depending on him, when I'm sitting here telling myself that the devil never sleeps, so I should never sleep, I should never take rest, like my business has to go, I have to do this and I have to do this, and I never take the time to rest. And the belief that it says, number one, the belief that I am in control of my life rather than knowing that he is in control of everything. Sometimes we sit here and try to control things, or actually like 90% of the time of our lives, I feel like we try to control things, and then you end up getting frustrated. And then your frustration turns into fear, and your fear turns into installment, and that just means that you won't sit here and move forward. And so if you're catching yourself, I have a lot of people who come to me, because obviously I'm in a leadership role in this business, so I have a lot of people come to me throughout the day, and a lot of the things that they're sitting here messaging me about, it's not in their control. And I do the exact same thing to Morgan. I do the exact same thing just in life. I'll sit here and I'll find myself complaining, or I'll sit here and journaling and just like out my frustrations if I'm frustrated for the day. And then I realize, I look back and I'm like, but none of that is in my control. And that should be the biggest blessing. But instead, sometimes I use that as like, oh my gosh, it's not in my control. That gives me a panic attack. But in reality, that should release me from all frustrations and anxieties, because I literally can't control it. And I know it's way easier said than done. So that's the first one. And then the second one, it says, when I do not trust the people who I delegate authority and responsibility to and actually begin to believe the lie that if I wanted something done right, then I'll do it myself. How many of y'all won't delegate tasks to your team? Or if you don't have a team, how many of you won't delegate tasks to your family members or your spouse? I know my fiance is like this and drives me crazy, but he's like, hey, can you go, like, he's a neat freak, love it to death. He's really organized, but he'll be like, hey, can you go wash the dishes while I'll go do this? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And then he complains about how I put the dishes in the dishwasher, or he complains about whatever it is, and it's so funny. And we're all this way, but it's just, you won't release that control. And that's something I've had to learn to do with my leaders. And two of y'all are in the leader chat on here, so like I try to sit here and get y'all's opinion. I try to sit here and ask y'all's questions, because I never wanted to be like, oh, I think we should do this, I think we should do this. I'm like, hey, come here, like, let's delegate the task. And when you do that, that's when you start creating leaders, and that's when you start creating like different areas in your life where you can trust other people. So when that time comes, the stress isn't going to come. Like, it's not going to be on you anymore. And that's something that I think a lot of us need to learn to do. And number three, when it says, when I know without a doubt that God has told me what to do, but I begin to listen to experts who tell me that the very thing that God has told me to do is impossible. How many of y'all have looked at statistics on things of like, I know people say that I'm gonna butcher this percentage, something percentage of small businesses fail within their first year. Okay, that might be a statistic, but do you have to be a statistic? No. God tells you everything is possible on his side. He says that if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, he can move it. He says that he can move mountains as long as you trust in him. So like, why are you sitting here trusting? Like, I get and I respect doctors. I respect these people. But at the same time, you know, those people that come to you and they're like, well, my doctor said this, or, oh, well, I researched this or whatever. And it's just like, so you wouldn't come to me and ask me. It's kind of like, it's kind of like a disrespect when someone asks you about the business and then they go and research it. It's like, you didn't want to ask me specific questions. That's how I feel like we are with God. It's like, he's like, you didn't want to trust me with the answers, but instead you looked on Google and looked at the statistic of how many people fail or how many people do this or whatever. And I think that that's a really good perspective to have. So next time you're starting to tell yourself, well, you know what, maybe I'm not cut out for this, or maybe I'm not cut out for whatever it is in life. Maybe I'm not cut out to be a mom, whatever it might be. Statistics don't always have to win, you guys. Okay, God is way bigger than statistics or science. And then it says, number 4, when I try to explain myself to those who don't really want an explanation, they just argue. I feel this on the business level. I don't feel this on the personal level. Y'all might feel it on the personal level, but when someone's trying to argue with me about the business and like they say something negative or whatever, I don't have time to argue. At that point, I can't convince someone, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show you grace. And that's the best thing that you can do in a situation. So maybe your spouse is trying to argue with you about something so stupid. Maybe your kids are trying to argue with something. Whatever the case may be, just know to give that situation to God and just be like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. And then number 5, it says, when I refuse to take some time to disconnect and rest, claiming that the devil never takes a day off, while I understand that the devil shouldn't be my example. For those of you in the back who don't take a Sabbath, okay? Talking to all of you guys on here, because I know all of you guys are bad about it, or at least 2 of you guys are. I love you to death, but we already talked about this and I was really bad about it. Taking a Sabbath will release your mind of all the negative energy, will release your mind of just knowing that you have to do a million things at once. When I take my Sabbath, I don't look at this thing. If someone's like, hey, can you look up something? I'm like, yeah, let me see your phone. Because I know for me, when I look at my phone, I see about 13 messages, or someone's like, hey, I want to sign up as a customer. And I'm like, oh, you know what, God, hold up 1 second. I do that all the time. But I can tell you my enrollments are stronger and my people stay with me longer. And the success rate that I have with the Sabbath included has been way higher than when I didn't take a Sabbath before, because I was drained. If I didn't take a Sabbath, I would get frustrated at my team more easily. And I would have people that message me as a customer, and I don't know, like it's, I promise you, it's so worth it. So take that Sabbath and take it for your time, because the devil may never sleep, but guess what? God tells you to rest. And that's what he tells you to rest on the 7th day. And then it says, number 6, when I begin to take on the Messiah complex and begin to think about how much I need to do and how much Jesus needs me rather than how much I need him. How many times do y'all have a to-do list? And you're like, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do this. But then you don't realize, or you say like, hey, I need to work my business today. Even on your Sabbath, I need to work my business today. Why? Do you think it's because God has called you to do this and has allowed you to not even take a rest? No, he's calling you to take a rest so he can work in your life during that time. And then it says number 8, when I focus on the size of the problem rather than the size of God. This one's really intriguing for me personally, because I'm the one that like, I've really had to train my mind to be more positive oriented, like more positive thinking, but I find myself a lot of times going back into the negative. That's why I practice so hard on personal development. Like, you will never hear me skip a day of personal development. And oftentimes it's like I worry about the problems that can come rather than the size of God and how he can conquer literally anything. He could literally conquer anything. Like Jesus walked on water, and like all these things that you just start thinking about, you're like, okay, God really is like, he can do the impossible. And so you have to start thinking about that. So anytime that you have a problem, an issue that you're worried about, instantly get down on your knees or whatever you're doing at that time. I told you I exercise a lot, but pray. Okay. Pray about it and ask God to release you of that control and release you of that, anxiety, and just ask him to show you how big he is. And I bet you, and I asked someone to do this yesterday, I asked y'all to do this the other day in the team chat, and also asked y'all leaders to do this, is like to write down every blessing that you receive in your life And it doesn't have to be money related. It doesn't have to sit here and be like the biggest things. It can be the smallest things, like a compliment, or someone messages you saying, hey, I want samples, $20 there, boom. Or it could be someone on your team that sounds a customer. That's a blessing. That's duplication happening. And so you just writing down those blessings is going to bring you more aware of how big God really is. And then it says, number 9, when I fail to share my worries and concerns and admit my mistakes to others for fear that it may make me seem weak and stupid. The opposite is actually true. Those around me who actually ask questions, I respect them way more. That's for me. If you come to me with a problem and you're sitting here and you're like, you know what? I've told you I've been doing my 6 list, but if we're being really honest, I haven't done my 6 list. I will respect you more than if you're like, I'm doing absolutely everything. No, I swear I'm doing my 6 list. And then I can't find a solution because it's that lie that's in the middle, you know? And I've done that before. I really have, where I was embarrassed to say that I wasn't doing the things I needed to do in this business, or I wasn't doing the exercise and diet that I wanted to, or literally it could be so many different scenarios. So stop fronting yourself and just ask for help when you need it. And I had some really great FaceTimes with some of you guys this week, and it was good because I think we had breakthroughs, and it could have been the smallest breakthrough, but I feel like it'll be helpful. So just ask help when you need help. And then number 10, when I become unaware of his presence every single minute of my life, that's a mistake. Make sure you're aware of every single time he does something in your life. Make sure that you're present, knowing him, that even in this room, even on the Zoom, you're listening to him. Like I never know what it is I'm going to say on these Zooms. Okay. I literally don't. I just prepare as far as like reading what I'm going to read, but as far as that, I don't know what I'm going to say. And so I truly ask God to always help me through these, to know what to say and know what to speak to someone's heart today. And so just know that he's always present with you. So if you feel like he is not there, if you don't hear him, if you don't feel him, if you don't see him, if you're praying, and you're like, I don't hear anything. Am I crazy? Does he not like me? Is he blocking me? No. That happens to me as deep as I am in my faith journey. When I was praying all last week, I didn't feel him. I didn't hear him. I didn't see him. And I might have seen him working in my life if I wasn't so blinded by like my just negative mindset, you know? And he's always working in my life. You know, I'm blessed to be able to just afford the things that I can afford and be able to pay my bills and be able to leave these things. Like there's a lot of blessings that happen, but I get too focused on that negative scenario, or get too focused on not even something that's happening, just me just getting into my feelings. And then it blocks me from the view of what he's doing in my life. And so I think this is a really good reminder to be aware of these things when you're doing them. And it's going to be a great reminder for when you are in that funk, or when you are feeling weird, or when you are like discouraged, or when you are feeling sad, or when you doubt him. Now you can have that being like, okay, God really is working in my life. He trusts me. I believe in him. Have these things, just believe. I promise you, it's way better. And I actually have a sign on my desk over there, but it says, you have been given this mountain to show others it can be moved. And so I want you to kind of walk away with that statement in your mind today. I put it up as a reminder. It's like a little word board. And so I just like put the little words in it. And I look at that every single day. And I'm like, you know what? I might not be facing a mountain today, but when a mountain does come, I'll be prepared, because I know that I can move it and God can help me move it. And then I can bless others through that. So if you are going through a mountain right now, God gave that mountain for you because he knew that you could handle it. He wouldn't give it to your next door neighbor, because that your next door neighbor might be handling something differently. And he knows that your neighbor is a little bit more weak in his faith, so he couldn't handle something that strong, but he knows that you're stronger. And so anytime that something we go through in life, it builds us up into our character. It builds us up into knowing God more and trusting God more. And then we start building our faith, our strength over and over and over again. And it just makes us stronger and more prepared and more equipped for what God wants us to do in life. So I think that's a really great reminder. I think that those things needed to be like reminded in your head every single day, saying, okay, I know God's present with me. Remind yourself that he is bigger than you. He is bigger than any lie that the devil has told you. He is bigger than any situation that's happening. He's given you all these things. He's given you all these tools, and just reminding you of those things. And if y'all don't have the Bible app, I really strongly encourage y'all to get it. They have really good Bible plans in there. You can just search a keyword and it'll give you every single plan you need. Like, it'll just pop up and it's like, do you need this? Do you need this? And then it'll give you scripture, or you can just read the Bible on there. I don't like reading the actual Bible in here because I get distracted with like my notifications coming in. So I read my like actual Bible, but these plans are really good. So I hope that this spoke to someone today, or I hope it helps. Or even if you're like, you know what, this didn't really resonate with me, because that happens sometimes. Sometimes I read scripture. You guys, I read it this morning. I was like, okay, cool. Like, did that yesterday too, but I got on a Bible app and it spoke to me. So if it didn't speak to you, or if you didn't connect with it, I bet you someone's going to come in your life and you can use this as an example to help them through their situation. That's how it always works. Okay. So be a blessing to someone else, and just gain it in that perspective. If you ever feel like you're on here and you're like, you know what, this didn't speak to me today, look at it in that perspective and it will speak to you in some way, shape, or form.